let's just do this. Namo
Vishnu
Vishnu
Padaya
Padaya
Krishna
Krishna
Prasthaya
Prasthaya
Bhutale
Bhutale
Shrimate
Shrimate
Bhakti Siddhanta
Bhaktisiddhanta Swami
Saraswati
Saraswati
Iti
Namine.
Namine. I offer my respectful obeisances unto His Divine Grace Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, who is very dear to Lord Krishna, having taken shelter at his lotus feet.
Shri Vrishabhanavi Devi Daitaya Kripade
Krishna
Krishna
Sambandha
Sambandha
Vijnana
Vijnana
Daine
Daine
Prabhave
Prabhave
Namaha.
Namaha.
I offer my respectful obeisances to Sri Vrishabhanavi Devi Daite Das, another name of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, who is favored by Srimati Radharani, who is the ocean of transcendental mercy and the deliverer of the signs of Krishna.
Madhurya
Vala
Jwala
Premadhya,
Premadhya
Shri
Shri
Rupanuga
Rupanuga
Bhaktida,
Bhaktida
Shri
Shri
Gora
Gora
Karuna
Karuna
Shakti,
Shakti
Vigraya
Vigrahaya
Namostate.
Namostate.
I offer our respectful obeisances unto you, the personified energy of Sri Chaitanya's mercy, who delivered devotional service which is enriched with conjugal love of Radha and Krishna, coming exactly in the line of revelation of Srila Rupa Goswami.
Namaste Gauravani Shri
Murtaye
Murtaye
Dina
Dina
Tarine,
Tarine
Rupanuga
Rupanuga
Viruda
Prasidanta
Prasidanta Dvanta Harine.
Dvantadharine.
I offer my respectful obeisances unto you, who are the personified teachings of Lord Chaitanya. You are the deliverer of fallen souls. You do not tolerate any statement which is against the teachings of devotion service enunciated by Srila Rupa Goswami.
Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So Hare Krishna, dear devotees, thank you very much for joining today. Today is the disappearance day of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada, and we wanted to have a look at his glorious life, at least a little bit of it. In fact, I don't know if you can see this. You're not able to see this book.
No, because it's got a thing.
Yeah, let's just switch that off. So this book has been written with a series of 3 books, nearly over 500 pages, written by Bhaktivikas Swami, who is the guru of Rohit on this platform. And I couldn't go through all of them. I've gone through some of it. So I've done half of this book. But he's given a lot of detail about Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, which is really good. So I wanted to share some of that. So let's make a start. I wanted to seek your good wishes and your blessings so that we can seek also the blessings of our Guru Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur on this day where he left for the spiritual world. So, during the time of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's stay on this planet, the pure religion of Vaishnavism taught by the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was essentially lost. And it had become degraded, and it was almost regarded like a sex religion, or at best a cult of fanaticism and sentimentalism. There were a lot of sahajas apparently who were practicing with lots of young girls. The Thakur was very sad in his heart to see this, and with a desire to present the actual teachings of Lord Chaitanya, he wrote many books and many songs, and we are going through those songs by the Lord's grace and by Karuna Bandha's wonderful efforts. He traveled also to many parts of Bharat. He would preach, give lectures, and he would try to imbibe pure Vaishnavism wherever he went. And practically single-handedly, he revived the pure Hare Krishna movement of the holy name, Nam Sankirtan. And of course, he presented the glories of Lord Chaitanya to all learned men of the world. And one of his books reached McGill University in Canada, I think. And that was the teaching, Life and Precepts of Lord Chaitanya. And that was printed on 1896, the year that Srila Prabhupada was born. So it was quite interesting how that all relates. However, so that this preaching of the Nam Sankirtan, chanting of the holy names, could go on nicely, even after he left the world, he prayed to Lord Chaitanya to send him an assistant, a successor from the Lord's personal staff of preachers. He asked for a ray of Vishnu, and that was answered. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was born to him and Bhagavati Devi on February the 6th, 1874. And at that time, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was serving as a magistrate in Jagannath Puri. He was named Bimala Prasad, he who has received who was received as the mercy of Bimala Devi, the internal potency of Lord Jagannath, manifested as Durga Mata. Through various signs, the Lord showed Thakur Bhaktivinoda and his good wife that this was the great soul that had been sent by Mahaprabhu to carry on the preaching work that Bhaktivinoda Thakur had started. It was witnessed by all present that when the child came out of the womb, the umbilical cord was wrapped around him like a sacred thread worn by the Brahmins. So that was a very auspicious sign. There must be other things as well. So I've only captured a few things here. So please do forgive me for that. 6 months later, at the Rath Yatra festival, something incredible happened. The cart is pulled by hundreds, thousands of people. It stopped in front of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's house, and it wouldn't move from there. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur's wife, she took Bimal Prasad to see Lord Jagannath, and because she was the wife of the Thakur, who was the magistrate, but not just the magistrate, he was actually the manager of the Jagannath Puri temple. Everybody respected her. They allowed her on the cart, have darshan of the Lord, and she placed the child at the lotus feet of the Lord. And one of the garlands fell off the Lord and fell around the child, encircled the child. So when Bhaktivinoda Thakur found this out, he was very pleased, because that's indication that this is a special soul. As the boy grew, the Thakur instructed him in the science of Krishna consciousness. At the age of 7, Bimal Prasad had memorized all of the Bhagavad Gita, all 700 verses. That's at the age of 7, and he could explain each one. So this is incredible. He was very strict and disciplined with himself. One time he took a mango from the kitchen and he ate it. It was unoffered. And the Thakur just mildly chastised him, saying that it's not good behavior to eat before the Lord has been offered the food. So he took that personally, and he was so upset with himself. He made a vow that he would never eat mango again. He was 7 years old. And throughout his life, he kept this vow very faithfully. Whenever somebody would offer him a mango, he would say, "No, I cannot take. I'm a great offender." So this shows his determination. And this is him at a young age, 7. And this is the family of the Thakur. This is his wife, Bhagavati Devi. And there were 10 children in all, I believe. And I think Bhaktisiddhanta is here, isn't he? He's number 4. Oh, this one of those two. If anybody knows, let me know. But I think it's this one here. It was the 4th in the line, which interesting. Anyway, so at the age of 10, he was attending one of the missionary schools. He was initiated into the holy names, the first initiation by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and also the Nrsingadev mantra. In school, he was very bright, very intelligent. He invented a novel kind of phonetic alphabet, Bikranti, which he used for some time. but then it died out. Later on, he also attended a special Sanskrit school, which we'll talk about in a little while. He was celibate throughout his life. He never married, and hence he had a fantastic memory. He could remember, he could reproduce word for word any passage of any book he had read 50 years ago. So he had a great memory. In 1888, when he was 15, he was awarded this title, Siddhanta Saraswati, by his tutors, because he was actually very good, proficient, and talented at understanding both Eastern and Western systems of astrology. And later on, he actually opened up a school of astrology. So at some point in his youth, he also adopted this name, Sri Vrishabhanavi Dayata Das, the servant of the lover of Srimati Radharani, the daughter of Queen Vrishabhanu. So this is him at student life, early 1890s. Looks pretty serious, which he was. He was pretty intense throughout his life. Intense for Krishna Bhakti. In 1892, he entered the Sanskrit college in Calcutta. He became an expert in Sanskrit grammar, Vedic Shastras, different views of philosophy. In college, he would read all the different library books and study mathematics, international history, philosophy, and astronomy. Astronomy was one of his pet subjects. He attended a cultural association in Calcutta called August Assembly, in which the study of various philosophical and theological topics were conducted. He was a very powerful debater, and no one's argument could stand up against his vast erudition and scholarship. We'll see later on how he was so devastating in his arguments that sometimes people would pass the call of nature, right? They were fighting with him. 1895, Siddhanta Saraswati took a job with the royal family of Tripura, which is an independent state at that time. And he was engaged as the associate editor of their family history. And he worked in the library, so he read all the books in the library. When the king passed away and his son took over, the son engaged him as the Sanskrit and Bengali tutor for the crown prince, Rajendra Kishore. And then when Bhaktisiddhanta had enough, he left, but they gave him a pension. And he kept that pension until 1908, and then he renounced that pension as well. At the age of 23, in 1897, he opened a school in Calcutta about astronomy. And many prominent and scholarly Calcutta gentlemen were amongst his pupils, students. And he started some journals as well. He wrote some books on this matter as well. So he's very proficient. But then on the instructions of his father, he gave it up, astronomy, because he wasn't going to help his bhakti. Since 1895, Siddhanta Saraswati was attending the meetings of the Thakur's Vishva Vaishnav Raj Sabha. So that's the organization that Bhaktivinoda Thakur started. And after Bhaktivinoda Thakur left, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur carried on with that for a little while until he established Gaudiya Math. 1899, he edited, these are the Thakur's magazines. He was editing them, the Nivedan. He was writing books. In 1900, he wrote a book on the society and different religious sects in Bengal called Bange Samma Chikata. This is one of the pictures of him writing. This is a little later in his life, in the 30s. And in 1901, his father asked him to take initiation and get the Gayatri Mantra, but not from him. He said to Bhaktisiddhanta that there is a wonderful devotee called Gokishodas Babaji, one of the associates of Thakurji, who considered Bhaktivinoda Thakur as his Shiksha Guru. And he was very renounced. As we know, we've looked at his life in the past, extremely renounced devotee of the Lord. So it was Gokishodas Babaji that the Thakur said, you should take initiation from this great soul. So Bhaktisiddhanta approached him. He hadn't taken any disciples, and he was very, very humble, and he refused to take, especially someone like Bhaktisiddhanta as a disciple, because Bhaktisiddhanta was a scholar. But Gokishodas Babaji couldn't even write his own name. He was illiterate. So out of humility, he wouldn't take. And every time Bhaktisiddhanta would ask him, he would say, Gokishodas would say, oh, yeah, I will ask Chaitanya. And then Bhaktisiddhanta would come back to him and he would ask him, have you asked Chaitanya? Oh, Gokishodas Babaji Maharaj would say, no, I forgot. So it went on like that. So disappointed, Bhaktisiddhanta went back to his father and said, what's happened? That he won't give initiation. So the Thakur sent him out again and said, you better take initiation from Gokishodas Babaji, otherwise your life is useless, and also you're not welcome at home. So that was a good incentive for him to approach Gokishodas Babaji in a different way. So what he did, he went off with great determination, and he said to Gokishodas Babaji that if you don't give me initiation, then I will just jump off the bridge and kill myself. And he said his father has told him that human life is worthless without a spiritual master. If you refuse to accept me as your disciple, I will kill myself. So upon hearing this and seeing the young man's sincerity of purpose, the Babaji accepted him as his only disciple, adding Bhakti to his name. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And later on, his disciples gave him the name Srila Prabhupada, same as our Srila Prabhupada. And I think that was in the 1930s, maybe the late 1920s. So from that year, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he started traveling to different holy places. And as we talked about before, he was a great debater. One time he was having a debate on 2nd of January, today in fact, 1902, with Raj Bahadur Rajendra Chandra Shastri, president of the Royal Society. And he was the presiding over the meeting. And one of the professors there passed urine and apparently stool as well in the assembly, out of shock of being defeated by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. During his time, he compiled a Vaishnava encyclopedia named Vaishnava Manjusha. He stayed in Puri for quite long periods of time with his father, and there they would preach the holy names. And he was very uncompromising in his preaching. And that was sometimes controversial as well, especially with somebody called Ram Charan, who had devised his own form of kirtan. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati protested against this. And that caused quite a lot of tension. And the Thakur then asked Bhaktisiddhanta to ease off the tension, go to Mayapur for some time. But he was very strong-minded, intense, and uncompromising. In 1904, Bhaktisiddhanta, he traveled in East Bengal. In 1905, he went to other parts in the south of Bharat. He would lecture, preach, write, debate. He was always fully absorbed in giving the holy names or passing the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And in the south, he would travel to so many different places: Himachalam, Madras, Tirupati, Kanchipuram, so many different places. His strong preaching gave him a reputation that his very name would strike terror into the hearts of his philosophical adversaries. The perverted and immoral so-called religious activities of different nonsense cults and sects were doomed forever in the presence of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And then he did something extraordinary, actually. His father had done this as well. In 1905, in the Yog Pit in Mayapur, he took a vow to chant 1 billion names of the Lord, 300,000 names every day. Took him 9 years. And during this time, this 9 years, he continued with his preaching work as well, which was extraordinary. And he chanted on beads given to him by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who used the same beads before to chant. So this is a picture of when he took that vow. He would also follow Chaturmasya. So this is a time when he followed Chaturmasya, wouldn't shave and like that, especially in the early days. In 1911, at an All India conference of the Pandits, different Pandits in Midnapore, he, which was presided by Pandit Vishwambharananda Dev Goswami. I think he is from the Radharaman temple, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, this debate, Bhaktivinoda Thakur couldn't attend it, but this debate was about the difference between the Brahman and the Vaishnava. So traditionally, at that time, the Brahman was always considered to be superior, even to the Vaishnava. And in this debate, after the discourse by Bhaktisiddhanta, he proved that the Vaishnava is superior in every way to the Brahman. After the discourse, all the people came forward to offer him respect and touch his lotus feet. The president of the conference called him the other self of Sukadev Goswami. And this lecture was later published in the book. So this was a huge thing at that time. And this is very controversial as well. But he proved through the scriptures that the Vaishnav is considered to be always higher than the Brahman. The Brahman is a great personality, no doubt about it, as long as they're practicing. But the Vaishnav, may he be a Brahman or a Shudra, it doesn't matter. He is always higher because he's fixed at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. Okay. Thank you for letting me know. Let me know if it's still breaking, huh? We can switch over to the phone if it's still breaking. In 1913, he established the Bhagavad Press in South Calcutta, which was later moved to Mayapur and then Krishnanagar, where he began to publish his many carefully edited books. Altogether, he published and edited, okay, thank you. Wrote about 61 works as well as 8 different journals. Once he was asked, how come you are managing to produce a journal every month about God? And he replied that in this world, there are thousands of newspapers and magazines reporting the stale, repetitious happenings of this limited space. So the reporting of the news of the unlimited spiritual realm, concerning the eternal, ever-fresh personality, Supreme Personality of Godhead, we could publish a magazine at every second, or to speak of monthly. That's really interesting. Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta, he made special studies of Vaishnava literature in South India, and he was the first one to introduce the Bengali translations of the works of Madhvacharya Sampradaya, because this Sampradaya is considered to be belonging to Brahma Madhav Gaudiya Sampradaya. So he sort of linked the two through these Bengali translations of the works of Madhvacharya. He always stressed the importance of publishing and distributing Vaishnava literature as a means of educating the mass of ignorant humanity. And in order to facilitate the printing of books, he established 4 printing presses. This was really revolutionary. He did one in Calcutta, the Nadia Prakash printing works at Mayapur, Bhagavad Press in Krishnanagar, Paramarthi printing works in Cuttack. So he was active. He loved books and he loved to distribute books. He called these books The big madanga clay.
Presses.
Huh?
The presses in the books.
The presses, yeah. The madangas, because they, that's right, because the madanga is loud. The sound can reach long distance, but the books, they can reach long distances as well. Can be all heard all over Bharat. 1914, Bhaktivinoda Thakur disappeared, which was quite a devastating event. But he took on the task of furthering the movement of Lord Chaitanya. He took over the editorship of the Thakur's journal, the Sajjana Toshani, which is a monthly Vaishnava paper in Bengali. And then he converted it into the Harmonist. I think everybody's probably familiar with the Harmonist. At one point in our spiritual journey, we'll have come across the Harmonist. And then in 1915, his spiritual master, Gokishore Das Babaji, also left for the spiritual world. And we've discussed the pastime of what happened when Gokishore Das Babaji left. They wanted to drag his body through the streets of Mayapur, which is what he said he'd like that done. But Bhaktisiddhanta knew that was just out of the humility of the Babaji. And he challenged the people present at that time that anybody who's not had sex in the last month, you can touch the body of Gokishore Das Babaji. Nobody came forward. He reduced it to 1 week, then a few days, but nobody still came forward. And the police who were present at that time were shocked because this was a group of saintly people, but nobody came forward. So Gokishore Das Babaji's body was taken by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and he established Samadhi in Mayapur. In 1918, on the occasion of Go Purnima, he took sannyas. This was really revolutionary stuff. Firstly, the fact of taking sannyas, because Bhaktivinoda Thakur didn't take sannyas. Gokishore Das Babaji was a Babaji, didn't take sannyas. So in itself, the move was controversial, taking sannyas. And many people would challenge him. What's this all about? Taking sannyas. Where's this come from? Because Vyasadeva has forbidden it in the age of Kali. But then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati successfully would argue that during the time of Lord Chaitanya, for the sake of preaching, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself took sannyas. Many others took sannyas. And for the sake of preaching, sannyas is acceptable in the age of Kali Yuga. But the other thing which was really revolutionary was who does he take sannyas from? There wasn't, in his eyes, anybody qualified at that time to give him sannyas. So he took sannyas in front of a picture of his Guru Maharaj. That's really controversial. But as we can see, he was very correct in doing that, because he took sannyas and then things happened. He'd already achieved the goals of renounced order anyway. He took this step in order to preach the gospel of Lord Chaitanya's mission everywhere without restriction. That's exactly what happened. The Gaudiya Math took off. This is 2 days after he took sannyas. There he is with the sannyas danda, looking very austere and intense. He was called the Simha Guru, Lion Guru. Nobody could stand his glaze. On the same day, he established his first Vaishnava monastery, Chaitanya Math. The Chaitanya Math became the headquarters for the branch of Gaudiya Math throughout the world, the flagship of which is situated in Calcutta. So initially, it was in Mayapur, I believe, and then he shifted it to Calcutta. Later that year, one important figure in popular religious organization met with Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. He was so impressed with his power of purity that he immediately begged to become his disciple. So he became disciple, and I think his name was Kunjada, if I'm not mistaken. And he would arrange for Bhaktisiddhanta's transfer between Mayapur and Calcutta. Because at that time also, Bhaktisiddhanta was very much into practicing his own sadhana. He was very much into chanting and living a very secluded life. And this man said to him, "You're needed in Calcutta because the power of Kali is just overpowering anything good that's happening there. So you're needed there." And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati listened, and he took on the task of establishing those Gaudiya Math throughout Bharat and overseas as well. He rented a small house, this man, I think it was Kunjada, rented him a small house in Calcutta to expand this preachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This house became known as Bhakti Vinod Agana and was later known as Sri Gaudiya Math. So Gaudiya Math is the organization that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati founded and established temples all over Bharat. And then later in the 30s, 1930s, that was moved to a huge temple in Bagh Bazaar, which was built for the Gaudiya Math. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati then, in quick succession after that period, spread his Gaudiya mission to every part of Bharat, attracting thousands of disciples to the banner of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. At the time of his passing from this world, he had opened 64 Gaudiya Maths for the propagation of spiritual life and Bhagavad philosophy. In many of the maths, he established the worship of the Archavikara, the deities of the Lord, in line with the principles set out in Sanatana Goswami's Hari Bhakti Vilas. And generally, he was installing Radha Krishna and Gaur Gadadhar. Gaur Gadadhar, that's right. One time, a very important gentleman approached Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati and said that your Gaudiya Math is so nice. You should open up temples in all cities of the world. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, very humbly replied, "My real business is to establish temples in everybody's heart." So this was a really nice point. He wanted everybody to become a devotee. It's not that sometimes people open temples and it's more out of false ego. I've opened a temple. I'm a great man, religious man, make a big show of it. But that wasn't the intention of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. He really wanted to spread Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission everywhere. He was such a bold and powerful preacher, and he became known as the Lion Guru. Sometimes on walks in early mornings, he would come across some big Mayavadi sannyasi, and he would physically grab him and shake him while verbally chastising him. You can just imagine this. Thereafter, whenever a Mayavadi saw him coming, they would flee in fear of him. One time, a big impersonalist Vedanta society in Calcutta invited him to a debate on the condition that he could not use Bhagavatam as scriptural evidence. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, no problem. Don't use the Bhagavatam, he can use the Puranas and the Upanishads. Then after a short time, they called him again and said, you could not speak on Mahabharata, Ramayana, or Puranas, or the Pancharatnas. Okay, no problem. He agreed to that as well. Then they called him and said he could not use as evidence any of the Vedas, Upanishads, or Smriti texts, but could only speak from the Vedanta Sutra. So he agreed to that as well. Then after a little while, they called him again and said, don't come at all. He was such a fiery preacher. Nobody could defeat him in a debate. From the years 1990 to 1929, so 10, 11 years, he was constantly traveling all over Bharat, lecturing to crowds of thousands, debating, destroying various bogus religious sects, and performing parikram, walks to the holy places, walks around the holy places, with his disciples to different sacred sites, seeking to improve and preserve them. So during these 10, 11 years, he also installed 108 footprints of Lord Chaitanya mainly in the south of India, of Bharat. So, and there he would also record the date that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had traveled there, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to South Bharat on a preaching tour as well. In 1919, he completed his preaching tour of Bengal. In 1920, he went further into Bengal. It covered a lot of, in fact, most of the Gaudiya Math temples, a lot of them are in Bengal itself, East Bengal and West Bengal, Bangladesh. And he went to Bihar, Orissa. Again, he established many temples there. In Vrindavan, he's established many temples there. In Puri as well. And in 1922, they did the Bhajamandal Parikram with hundreds of disciples. And he gave lectures at all the major temples and places of pilgrimage. Now, 1922 was a significant year for us, because that is that year that our beloved Abhay Charan, Srila Prabhupada, met Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. And that changed the course of his life, and of course, our lives as well. So just recounting that, because it's such an important pastime. A close friend of Prabhupada, Narendranath Mulik, insisted that Prabhupada, Abhay Charan, come and meet a sadhu from Mayapur. Now, Abhay was a little reluctant because he'd met many sadhus and he wasn't impressed. But his friend persuaded him. Initially, Prabhupada was reluctant to go. There had been so many bogus sadhus, and Prabhupada had bad experiences with them. But his friend insisted. Together they entered the ashram, where, sitting with his back very straight, they found Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, a studious-looking man, wearing sannyas robes and small round spectacles. Srila Prabhupada and his friend both bowed down on the floor before him. While the two young men were still rising and preparing to sit, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta immediately said to them, "You are educated young men. Why don't you preach the message of Krishna all over the world?" Very first words by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada could hardly believe what he had just heard. They had not even exchanged any words, yet the sadhu was telling them what they should do. He asked him, so Prabhupada challenged him, who will hear your message as long as we are a dependent country? Because at that time, India was under the rule of Britain. First, India must become independent. How can we spread our Indian culture if we are under British rule? Nice point. But Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati replied in a quiet, deep voice, the message of Krishna cannot wait for a change in Indian politics. It is not dependent on who ruled. The teachings of Bhagavad Gita are so important, so exclusively important, it cannot wait. So then the lecture carried on, and then Srila Prabhupada and the friend left, and the friend asked Abhay Charan, what do you think? What do you think of this sadhu? And Prabhupada was very impressed. The message of the Bhagavad Gita is in the hands of a very expert person. So Prabhupada later would recall that I accepted Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati at that moment to be my spiritual master. And I accepted that instruction he immediately gave us in my heart. And then he took initiation 11 years later. In that time, in that 11, 12 years gap, Prabhupada would assess the Gaudiya Math. He would come and listen to Bhaktisiddhanta speak many, many times. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati always noted, he doesn't leave. Many people used to sit in the lecture and then walk out. But Prabhupada never walked out. He would always stay and listen. And this was his qualification. This is the time when he took that initiation in Allahabad, Prayag. Very nice temple of Gaudiya Math there in 1933. In the year 1925, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, along with large group of devotees went on a tour of Bengal. So there were many tours. He was not a person to sit around and preach from one place. He wanted to travel and really get to the ignorant people in order to give them knowledge. And this is a preacher. He would often say, if you have life, preach. If you don't have any life, do some deity worship. On this Gauda Mandal Parikram, Bhaktisiddhanta visited all the holy places connected with the pastimes of Chaitanya. In early part of 26, he toured in many places in Assam. His tours during 26 to 28 marked a very important place in the Gaudiya movement of Mahaprabhu in the history of Bharat as well. He brought about changes and improvements in various ways in all the sacred places, as well as brought about a new spiritual insight in the minds and lives of many followers of different religious sects, and brought them under the umbrella of Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan movement. Wherever he would go, he was received as a savior, a religious reviver, prophet by all who came in contact with him. In most states, he was received as an honored state guest, and many places was presented with public address of reception. 28 to 29, he traveled from Assam to Punjab, and he gathered a large number of authentic manuscripts of ancient Vaishnav writings, which he started publishing, but left unfinished. So I'm not sure what happened to those. But it wasn't always without any problems, because this debate about the Brahmins and the sannyasis and the Vaishnavas, how he gave sannyas to 18 devotees. Not all of them were born in the Brahminical families. That was really controversial. So sometimes the Brahmin shopkeepers would close their shops and refuse to serve Bhaktisiddhanta and his disciples. But he was always preached very strongly against this incorrect philosophy, against these proud and arrogant caste Brahmins. He always emphasized the needlessness of material qualifications to receive spiritual life. Regardless of sex, caste, nationality, past background, if somebody is sincere to have spiritual life, he would give it to them. So at that time, many of the gurus, they would only give initiation to Brahmin born people. But Bhaktisiddhanta didn't care for the caste or nor the sex. He would give initiation even to females. Because at that time, generally females were not given initiation into any sampradaya. These caste brahmanas were very much in an uproarious mood against about his turning those not born in Brahmin families into Brahmins. They really didn't like it. The Nityananda Vamsis especially plotted to assassinate him. It was quite serious. They went to the local police magistrate to bribe him so that he would not apprehend them after the murder. But the police magistrate told them that although he usually would accept a bribe, he could not in connection with killing a sadhu, a holy man. So then this police magistrate told Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and in that way he was saved from that incident. 1930 and 31, a new kind of spiritual education was exhibited for the benefit of the public, especially the illiterate masses, because the British had really destroyed the education system. They wanted to subjugate the local people. And one of the ways to do that was to not give them any education. So there was a lot of illiterate people who couldn't read. So you produce all these books, but what's the use of the books if people can't read them? So then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, who was innovative in his preaching style, he did these dioramas and dolls in lifelike manner. Beautiful. They still exist. If you go to the Gaudiya Mats in Mayapur and Jagannath Puri, you'll still see these dioramas. Very nice. They attracted thousands of people. On the property of Calcutta Gaudiya Math, there were exhibitions done and attracting 100,000 visitors every day for a whole month. So he really tried to improve the spiritual situation of these unfortunate people. In 1933, eager to spread Chaitanya's mission beyond Bharat, that was one of his objectives, because his father had said, when will that day come? The Thakur had said, when will that day come when the Huns and the Anglo-Saxons come and dance in Mayapur, on the streets of Mayapur? So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati sent some of his sannyas disciples, some of his most qualified sannyas disciples, to England in 1933 to open up Gaudiya Maths. And it was a really tough time at that time. There was no hippie culture. Not that we need a hippie culture to propagate Harinam Sankirtan, but the mood was different. And it was very difficult for the sannyasis to preach effectively. They had some success. A couple of German devotees became disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. They also got a property in southeast London, near where we are, donated to them by one lady that the sannyasis had convinced about Krishna consciousness. So they had some success, but they couldn't in any effective. And one of the stumbling blocks was there was, I think was it Lord Jetland? Was it Jetland? One of the aristocratic persons. I mean, these sannyasis preached, they even preached to King George. They really reached the higher classes of society, but they didn't go for the ordinary people. But anyway, Lord Jetland, he asked, what does it take to become a Vaishnav? So Bon Maharaj, he said, you can't eat meat, fish or eggs, can't drink alcohol, can't smoke, can't have illicit relations with the other sex. And the reply that came back was impossible. So that summed it up. That was what they were facing. Okay. So this is Bon Maharaj here, I think, as far as I understand. And this is when they returned back. So they went in 1933, they came back in 1935, and they received a nice welcome back. And does anybody recognize where Srila Prabhupada is in here, in this picture? Is he here? One of these characters. Oh, damn it.
He's on the far right.
Oh, did you read
with
that?
a moustache.
Did you read that,
He's,
Mataji?
he's got a moustache.
Yeah, yes.
Navi
You're
Prabhu,
right.
he's got a moustache.
Yes.
I recognize his face.
It's unusual to see him with a moustache, isn't it?
Yeah.
I couldn't Photoshop
Horrible.
shop that out because I can't use Photoshop.
No. I remember seeing this picture before.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Horrible.
extraordinary.
Horrible.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anybody else recognize Prabhupada? Okay. Doesn't look like Prabhupada, yeah. 1935, long time back. Anyway, very interesting. So it's past. There's quite a lot more. So maybe we just carry on tomorrow. Are there any questions or any comments up to where we've reached so far? Very interesting life of Bhaktisiddhanta. Anybody like to say anything or ask anything? Have we put everybody to sleep?
Haribol, Navi.
Hare Krishna, Mother Simple.
Jai, Haribol. Hare Krishna, Jai, Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai, Sri Prabhupada ki Jai. It's, I just want to commend you on actually covering the pastimes of and the life of Bhaktisiddhanta so far. I know you've read, the 3 volumes are there, which you showed. I haven't read them or anything, but, the influence of the British and not only British, but the Mughals before
Mm.
had devastated the whole, you know, the mood of the Hindu and demoralized. And actually, the whole attempt was to actually destroy the whole culture, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
And even, you know, Guru Maharaj used to say that the first thing that their guru, his guru, and they also did was to, as soon as they can get any chance, just get Gita press set up.
Mm.
You know, that he glorified the Gita press, and the first thing Gita press started doing was to start printing, you know, books which were like Bhagavatam and Ramayana and all those, and pastime to re-establish and you know, because the attempt was really there to crush Sanatana Dharma and the Hindus and the demoralized, and the Mughals had done it to a certain extent. Mughals did have a lot of opposition from other personalities as well, but certainly, you know, Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Lord Chaitanya's mission was in the hands of the, you know, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Saraswati, Thakur and Srila Prabhupada obviously then carried on with that. So Sanatana Dharma is something that's eternal. It's not something you can just destroy, you know. And attempts can be made, and there are always attempts made, you know, because this sort of, like you said, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati faced a lot of challenges from other people who debate and try to destroy and say, you know, minimize the value of Bhagavatam and Ramayana and all that. And just even to this day, sometimes they say, oh, you know, the Mahabharata is all mythology, and under the title of mythology, they say, oh, Ramayana and Mahabharata and all those is just fake myth anyway. But they don't, you know, that's how they've, but there is evidence, you know, a lot of evidence of so many devotees in Vrindavan in the life of Bhaktisiddhanta, certainly a proof that, you know, personalities like that are empowered and sent by Krishna, you know, to carry on the Bhagavad Dharma, especially the Bhagavad Dharma, and emphasize on Srimad Bhagavatam, because it's still a pure literature. It's got everything in it, you know, like astrology, cosmology, and which we will come across in Canto 5, you know, which, but it's just, you know, fascinating that, you know, we are so fortunate to be linked up with this picture where he says, you know, Prabhupada's sitting there and he's going to take that mission on throughout the world, and not only establish just some centers in India, but just all over the world. But still he faced a lot of challenges, and there's still be a lot more challenges because they'll still try to disprove, you know, the Sanatana Dharma values, and attempts will always be made. But this is the nature of material world, and even when Krishna was here, you know, attempts were made to destroy Sanatana principles, you know, but Kali Yuga is strong as well. And like you said, you know, that Lord, whoever, when he was told, oh, these are the things you'll have to give up to become a Pakka Vaishnav, no eating meat, fish, egg, this, that. And they say it's impossible. But it is impossible if you are a Kali Chela, you know. And disciple of, not disciple, but influenced by Kali Yuga, you know. So Kali Yuga is strong. So this is a battle on Kali Yuga as well. Like Guru Maharaj used to explain to us, you know, that these sort of things happened. But it's in good hands. We're fortunate, and somehow South London is important. If there was the first center established with Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and then Guru Maharaj came, he came and settled in South London somehow. And
when the first devotees came to Tulse Hill, Herne Hill, you know, Prabhupada's the first 6, they were here.
Yeah, like Shyam Sundar and those. Yeah, they came in London and were around there. So maybe, you know, you are in that zone somehow.
To the universe.
Carry on the good work. Haribol.
Thank you so much. A nice reflection there. And I just realized, actually, I looked at this picture a little closer. These are the two German devotees. And funny thing, they've got glasses, which are very similar to Bhaktisiddhanta. So they look like Bhaktisiddhanta as well. Very strange.
Maybe German engineering.
Very good.
Okay,
Thank you for
very
sharing.
good. Thank you. Very
Anybody else? Otherwise, we shall move on to the Nishinga prayers. Anybody like to? Oh, Surinder. Anything you'd like to share about Bhaktisiddhanta?
Yes, Hare Krishna, Dandavat, Nitai Gaurav. Yes, yes, we heard from our senior devotees. When Bon Maharaj came, he came back to India.
Yeah.
He was like suited and booted. Well, he had little success, like some devotees took initiation, the German devotees.
Yeah.
But basically, he was not on Vaishnava dress. So then Srila Prabhupada, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, asked him how was the preaching in Then Bon Maharaj explained, oh, they have questions which we cannot answer.
Right.
Then Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada requested Bon Maharaj, please put forward those questions. Sridhar Maharaj is here. He will answer.
Very good.
Then Bon Maharaj, he put forward those questions. And our Param Gurudev Srila Bhakti Rakhak Siddhardeva Goswami Maharaj, he answered all the questions. Very excited. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, he jumped and exclaimed, today Asia has conquered over Europe. This much we heard from our
very good
devotees. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing that.
Welcome.
Fantastic. Nice share. And tomorrow we're going to continue with this. So if there's anything else you'd like to share, please do so. All right.
Yes, all grace of Sri Guru and Guru.
Jai, thank you very much. Very nice. Hare Krishna. Thank you for that.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Is it our little temple in South London that you're talking about?
No.
Gaudiya Math. Yeah, it's a Gaudiya Math. It was donated to them in 1950, something like that, 1950s, because this lady gave it to the Gaudiya Math, the English lady. I think when she died, she handed it over. So.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
But Haribol, but one final point. But I think one of the important points that you made when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said that, you know, he wants to make every heart a temple for Lord Krishna, you know, not buildings, because after all, Gaudiya Math got tangled up in court cases over buildings and temples. And this is the nature of things, you know, which property and all that starts to cause hassle. But important thing is just, you know, have Krishna in your heart, and that's where bhakti starts to get strong and build. And that's faith, you know. When we start to have proper faith, then we can understand and realize that, you know, more important is you know, the holy name. You can't destroy holy name. At least that's one thing. Even Guru Maharaj once he was explaining to me how, you know, at that time the Mughals and everyone and Lord Chaitanya came also. The Hindus were so demoralized, you know, because they were being forced to get converted to Islam. They were being forced to eat meat. Sometimes they get hassled, get double tax. All sorts of atrocities were performed, you know, in the name of forcing conversions and all that. And there was so much demoralization. But then that's why Lord Chaitanya said, it doesn't matter, no matter where you come from, how low a caste you are, just say Haribol once and you're purified. And Hare Krishna, just chant Hare Krishna. You don't need to be worried whether somebody has touched you with meat or this or that, or no. You're not contaminated. You are pure. You just say Haribol once. And that started to instill faith in the Hindus more. But, and you can see the impact of it now, but still the glories of holy name will stand up to the test of times.
I remember when we did a tour of Trinidad and a little bit of America, I was with Maharaj. And these countries were all subjugated, like Trinidad was also under British rule.
Yeah.
And he would preach very strongly that you're not Indian, you're Bharatiya. Indian means you're subjugated. No, you're not subjugated. You are independent thinking personalities with the Sanatan Dharma as your religion. So, stand up and fight. So he would really inspire them to take on Krishna consciousness. I'm sure he must have done that in Mauritius and South Africa as well.
Yeah. Well, that's it, isn't it? Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, so we can go to Let me just stop that.